Hey, friends, welcome to episode 6 of the Wayne Forward podcast. My name is Samantha Klessinger,
And I'm Christoph.
and today we are talking all about having supportive partners during a weight loss journey, unsupportive partners during a weight loss journey, and just talk about our experience with our own journeys, and maybe offer some insight and some advice for you how to navigate some conversations that you might have with your partner. Today, we're talking all about how to navigate conversations between yourself and your partner during your weight loss journey. So sometimes we have supportive partners during our weight loss journey. Sometimes we have unsupportive partner during our weight loss journey, but we really just want to kind of talk about how to navigate those conversations in your relationship while you're on your weight loss journey. Let me see how many times I can say journey back to back to back. um, and this episode is inspired by one of our followers, Noelle, because she brought this up. And actually, I think it was your live, Chris, or mine. I can't remember. But she was talking all about how her partner hasn't been as supportive. So, Noelle, this episode is for you.
It's for you, Noelle.
So I think for today's conversation, I really want to kick it off to you, Chris, first, and just like ask you, how has John been on your weight loss journey? Has he been supportive, unsupportive? Have there been little obstacles that you've had to try to navigate with each other? What does that look like?
You mean besides buying me a 2-pound bag of jelly beans for our anniversary?
Yes, besides the 2 pounds of jelly beans.
2 pounds of jelly beans. Now, I'll tell you that it's like, our spouses know what has made us happy, but unfortunately, we're not the same people that we used to be. So, I mean, he had every good intention. He's a good guy. He was just trying to make me happy. And he was, I mean, for 20 years with him, that's what he's used to doing, is buying, Valentine's Day, our anniversary, something like that, is to buy sugar. And I mean, in past days, well, we'll say past month at this point, I could have put away 2 pounds of jelly beans in 3 hours. So, and he knows that, and he knows that like that was something that would have been, a nice gesture 5 months ago. So now he's having to, just like I am, he's having to relearn habits, and old habits die hard with our spouses. So, I mean, have you experienced anything like that, or?
With the food, a little bit. So Halloween was just a few days ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't get the candy. John does. So for those of you who are listening, Chris and I, both of our husbands' names are John. Oh, yeah. Chris's husband spells it Jon. My John is John, but I'm talking about my John, not Chris's John. So just to clarify that. So my John, yeah, so he has always been like in charge of getting a Halloween candy, like the past however many years we've been in this house. And so this year we actually decided to go trick-or-treating at my in-laws' neighborhood. I was like, listen, don't get a lot of candy. Like, please, like we don't need a lot of candy. Sure enough, we end up with like 4 bags. But then we both don't want any of this candy. So like now we're stuck with 4 bags of candy on top of the kids' candy, and we have like no idea what to do with it. But like to your point, it's just out of like habit. It's out of old habits. And like when you have it in front of your face, it's like, I don't want this anymore. Like, what am I going to do with all this? So for the food aspect, yes, I can definitely relate to that.
I mean, they've got to be going through something too. You know what I mean? It's like we kind of just changed the whole ball game on them. Yeah. And they're having to re-navigate everything just like we are, but in a very unique way. So yeah. It's like, what are they supposed to do? We're expecting them to follow along and completely revamp their routine. So that's got to be pretty difficult for them.
Yeah.
So I think we forget that.
So like how has it been like overall? Like have there ever been moments where you feel like you two kind of separated a little bit and come back? Like separate, not like, hey, we're separating as a couple, but like just like emotionally, like mentally, like how have there been any moments like that?
Yeah, I think that probably in my situation, speaking only from mine, of course, is that I feel like I'm I feel like John is married to a different person. So again, navigating a new problem that, how do you do that? You know what I mean? He's used to me being a certain way, and I've more been that way than I've been this way. Obviously, this is new. So I sometimes wonder if he feels like he's with a totally different person because I don't think or act or eat or anything the same way. I mean, going to a restaurant was a big deal for us for years. I mean, the pandemic changed that, but still we were used to eating out a lot and like just going to restaurants, probably 3 to 4 days a week, and which was its own problem. And, and became a worse problem, but even a financial, like it was expensive to do that all the time.
Right.
So we learned how to not do that during the pandemic. And then I decided to change this whole game by losing all this weight, and I don't eat the way I used to. So, okay, here's another good example. See if you relate to this, Samantha, is that we order takeout every once in a while, and one of our things is sushi. So for our anniversary, not only did he get me 2 pounds of jelly beans, but he ordered the biggest platter of sushi I've seen. I know this. I remember this happening to you recently was it a coffee or something that you had?
Yes.
Used to bringing certain things, and I think that John brought a whole platter of sushi, and I can't finish it, and I sit there and I still feel a little guilty about it. I don't feel like I used to, but to waste food.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is not to eat it, but it is also not the answer to throw it away. So It's a new world. So when I saw it happen with you, and I think it was on one of your lives, I was just like, yeah, I completely relate to that.
Yeah, it was today. I was like, I just need like a medium cold brew. And then he came home and it's like a large cold brew with like a pancake wrap and a donut. I'm like, I'm not going to eat all of this. And then so I think for like us, it's like, I appreciate you being so genuine and thank you so much for this, but I just don't want him to feel bad by saying this is too much. But yeah, so it's like kind of navigating all that talk and everything. Yeah. It's crazy.
So it's them navigating. It's also us navigating, them navigating. It just becomes this big cluster at some point because like I got to tell John at some point, order less food if you're going to order out. In your case, get a medium, like ask for stuff large. But in their world, they're used to saying, "Oh, she wanted a medium, but I'm going to get her a large because I love her." I think I'm pretty sure that's where that's coming from, is that they're just used to just doing a little more to make us happy because they love us. And, they're having to figure that out, even though we've kind of figured that out on our own, but, it's kind of like that. I mean, is this fair to say codependency in some of this?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So there's some level of that going on where, there's a codependence that they're used to us being a certain way. And I don't really feel like they want us to go back, but that's where they were comfortable with us too.
Yeah. And I think, so I was like reading something today actually, and talking about food and how most relationships, I mean, food is a huge part, an important part of that relationship, like how you eat together and what you eat and what you cook together with. And so like when one person starts to alter that, it can definitely put a strain on that relationship just from the food aspect alone. And so I think sometimes, and I can sense it too with John, like, especially in the beginning when it was like, oh, you're not going to eat. Like, what do you mean you're not going to eat, or you're not hungry? Because he's so used to, I think, hearing me say, I'm hungry, I'm finding something to eat. And so we had that kind of connection, like that, like a common interest in a sense. But then when one of us started to pull away, it was kind of like, wait a minute, like, what are you doing? And so it was some of that uneasiness. And I think thinking back to like childhood, because like my parents, they would always like bring food into the house, even though I would tell them like, hey, I'm trying to like work on myself, I'm trying to eat healthier, blah, blah, blah. And I had like a little aha moment today, just thinking about like what we were talking about. And some people might not like what I'm going to say, but for me, I was like, oh, like this is so spot on and it's so correct, even though I hate what it's saying right now. But I think sometimes the person who is on the weight loss journey can tend to slide into a victim mentality as far as like, oh, John's trying to sabotage me. my parents are trying to sabotage me because they're bringing stuff in. And we have to kind of finally stand up for ourselves and have that mindset of, regardless of whatever John brings into the house, parents, whatever it is, I have to decipher my choice of if I'm going to continue down that path or if I'm going to really take control of what I can and not continue on and try to do something different and go on my journey of weight loss. And it was like, man, I hate this. Like, I hate reading this because it's so true. But I think sometimes it's difficult for us to kind of point the fingers on other people of, oh, people keep on doing this, trying to sabotage me in a sense, when it's innocent on their part because they're just so used to like treating us how they normally do. So it's kind of switching that mindset and being like, I understand why they're doing it, but maybe having that conversation with the partner and saying, hey, listen, I know that you're used to me eating 2 pounds of jelly beans.
Yeah.
I appreciate the gesture, but the gesture, but you no longer need to give me that.
Yeah.
And instead of jelly beans, maybe next time you get me some flowers or, a gift card to a spa or, whatever it is, something stupid. But I think it's kind of like redirecting them of like, hey, I do appreciate this. I just no longer need it, but here's what you can do instead. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Maybe you're making total sense. And I wouldn't feel bad about feeling that way at all. I mean, I'll going back to my childhood with my stepfather was very overweight before he passed away. And my mother owned a catering company. So she would have too many cakes, for example, and she'd have to bring a couple home and put them in the fridge or the freezer at home. And he would say that, he was upset with her for that because he would blame her for his weight gain. And at the time, I thought it was comical because he was a really funny guy. And looking back on it, I think that probably he did kind of blame her just a little bit, even though he wasn't really blaming her. He was blaming the situation. And so I think that maybe we fall into that trap because it might be like hubris of us to think that we're changing ourselves, that we're not going to affect anything else around us. You know what I mean? It's like we're automatically going to trigger other potential problems by just changing our world because there are an awful lot of people that depend on us. Yeah. So I don't know. So I think that maybe we should take a step back sometime and realize that, we do affect others and anything we change, it's going to have a counter effect somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it's going to happen in our spouses most likely because they're the next closest person to us. Yeah,
no, for sure. So kind of transitioning off of like, spouses kind of being unsupportive in an innocent way of like still trying to treat us how we were before we started losing weight, of like still bringing in foods that we might not want it to have anymore. Has there been anything else that you've noticed or times where he has kind of pulled away because maybe he's scared of what you're doing or maybe who you're becoming and maybe the attention that you're starting to get? Oh, yeah. What's that been like?
Well, I think that it's changed intimacy because they don't, at first, it felt like, why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. It's like he knew that I was doing this basically to live because I was like, my body was literally crushing itself. So if I had to do this just to survive, well, it gets to a certain point to where, I've done this, what I'm starting to push into my, soon to be 16th week. So this has been going on for a while and now I'm close to my lowest weight of adulthood, after 30. And I'm starting to get a lot of attention for it. And so he's not a jealous person. I'm very fortunate that John is not a jealous person. But I think that there may have been a level of like, are you unhappy in the relationship? Is this why you did this? Is there more to it than that? And so I've spent quite a bit of time not reassuring him because he's not insecure about us at all that I can tell. But I've spent an awful lot of time like trying to help him understand that this is health reasons for me.
Yeah.
I'm actually uncomfortable with the attention that I've gotten because I haven't gotten attention like this in years, more than years, like 20 years. And so, and I never expected it again at 53, but then I'll get someone that really little compliments me a little too much. And I'm just like, I don't know how to follow that anymore.
Yeah.
So, but it has changed the intimacy a little bit. And I think it's also because I am not the person that he's used to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of like, where we are. But I don't know. How about you? Has anything changed on your side with John?
Yeah. So there's been like a couple of moments where I have felt like he's kind of pulled away, and then same thing that you're talking about as far as like, what are you doing? Or, me being on TikTok a lot and social media. I feel like I have to start to kind of balance that as well. And I think especially when I went out to Vegas, I think he was a little bit insecure of like, well, who are you with and where are you going and blah, blah, blah. Like he, I think was like,
yeah,
I think he was starting to kind of panic in a sense. I'm like, listen, like you're the only person that I'm with. I'm not with anybody else. I'm not doing anything. I'm going for work and for birthday and trying to have a little bit of fun just by myself with my friend. And so he kind of experienced the same thing. Yeah, I think as your John did. And it has gotten better 100%. And I think what has helped with him being more supportive is just sharing with him like what I'm doing. And like I'll read him like comments that are on the videos, especially people who are like, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Because I'm showing him like, this is why I'm doing it, because I want to help other people. And so for him, it kind of gives him a light into like what I'm doing, because I don't want this to be like a whole separate world that he knows nothing about and that he can't be a part of by any means. In the beginning, I felt like that. I wanted them to be kind of totally separate, social media and then John. But now I'm like, hey, if you want to go on, you can see whatever I post. It doesn't matter to me. And so I think kind of shining a light with him and not keeping him in the dark has kind of helped open up the more communication as far as like what's going on, how are you doing, all that stuff. And like, not to be TMI, but our intimacy has gotten better.
Better, okay.
For sure. A lot better than it has in the past, more frequently. Just saying that. But yeah, so that has been like a perk, but so yeah.
So I wonder then, because I mostly hear from people that intimacy has gotten better. I have not experienced that. And I don't know what that is. And it could be as simple as that he doesn't know what to do anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm different. I'm a totally different person. Who is this person that, I share my life with now? So I don't know. I think, and it's also that I am definitely not the same person that I was before my hospital incidents.
Yeah.
Also, I've let go of an awful lot of stress. I think that I'm a much more compassionate person than I've ever been. I saw the alternative, and I'm like, no, I want to be a better person than that. It's like I was stressed out, and I've let go of the stress thanks to my son, and taking over the business and everything else. And I just wonder if that might be what it is. Is that because you probably were always the way that you are to some level. You were.
Like how? Like in the bedroom?
Okay. The question here, because the question. This is a whole new topic. So, how do you see yourself different now than before you started losing the weight? Or do you think there are differences in your personality?
So I think like before, for sure, I think you're just super self-conscious, like you're down about yourself, like you talk negative about yourself. And I think since starting the medication, like I don't have that negative voice in my head, even when it comes to like food, but just like in general. And, when I started to lose weight, I haven't really owned a piece of lingerie like at all my entire life. maybe like 1 or 2 pieces, and I wore it like once and that was it. And so when I started to like lose some weight, I was like, I want to buy more stuff. And John's like, hey, what are you getting? And so, and I think for him, he's like, finally, like, you know, like he loves when I wear different pieces. Oh my God, this is getting like really TMI. I'm sorry, guys, whoever's listening and seeing this. But so I think before, since I'm gaining more confidence and I'm being more comfortable in my skin and just kind of being like, hey, if you don't love my body, then whatever, that's on you. But I need to love myself where I'm at, or else I'm never going to love myself. So for me, I think it's just I'm starting to love myself where I am right now. Even though it's not the ideal place that I want to be, I have to love myself and my body. So that way, when I get to my desired weight, I can continue to love myself. So, but yeah, for me, and I think you kind of feel more confident in the bedroom too, as you're losing weight. Like you're wanting to show off, you're wanting to do other things. But yeah, so I don't know.
Well, I think that, okay, so let's, if we say, okay, from this point, if we say, is it possible that our spouses got a little too comfortable with who we were? And
I think so, yeah.
Because I was much more dependable before.
Mm-hmm.
Because what else did I have going on in my life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So John was my whole world back then. And he still is. It's just different.
Right.
Like, things have changed. And like TikTok and this show and things like that have really taken a front seat in my life because, you know, we've been together a long time, but this is extremely important to me. It's like, I feel like I've broken some ground in my life and I want to share that joy. I want to be able to share those moments with people so they can have their own moments. Mm-hmm. And I'm 1000% that you agree with that in your life too, is that these are things that are important to us to do, or we wouldn't be doing this at all.
Right.
So I just wonder if like the reliability and the, you know, that, you know, we weren't as confident back then and we weren't this and we weren't that became like just the ordinary. And they just got used to that. Whereas now it's like you and I seem to have and I hate this term, but a purpose driven kind of world now that we're doing something with purpose. And I don't think I had that before. I mean, Mounjaro's given me an awful lot of gifts, but that's one of the bigger ones right there, is that I actually have a reason. Now that my kids are out of the house, I actually have a reason to do something now. Mm-hmm. Before it was just like, man, you know, I could use a little more money. Yeah. And now I'm doing stuff that not necessarily making me any money, but it's giving me something greater than that.
It's fulfilling you.
It's extremely fulfilling.
It's because I think we all kind of like strive for like, what's our purpose in life? What are we meant to do? What are we supposed to do? And when we finally find it, or something that gives us joy, mm-hmm. yeah, like our partners can be like, hey, what the hell's going on? Wait a minute. Like, why are you doing this? But maybe that's something that maybe you can start to include John on, of like, hey, like, read this comment, or hey, I made this video and this person commented, like, isn't this pretty awesome? So that's why I think sometimes when our spouses seem to be unsupportive, they might not be. They might not be doing it intentionally.
Don't know what to do.
Maybe it's like kind of bringing them into our world a little bit. Just like show them, hey, like, and share your why. So not even for us, but like for whoever's like watching this and listening to this, like share your why with your partner, so that way they can be on board. And if they're not on board, then say, okay, F you, I'm going to do me, you can do you, and we'll see what happens. But like, you know, don't be dependent on what your partner says if it's not positive. Like, okay, well then you can go to yourself, I'm going to continue to do this because this is what fulfills me. And so I do want to ask you, because I know you said how sometimes, like, I mean, for some of us, intimacy is more often, sometimes it's not. Do you feel like, or can I ask you, like, do you initiate that at all? Because maybe sometimes, maybe he doesn't know how to act with you anymore, or like different or whatever, but maybe if you initiated it.
Yeah, I probably need to be getting better about that. But, you know, it's like, I think that, I don't know, like, for example, the other day he was out back, he took the dog out and whatever, and he had just gotten home. And so I went out there and said hello to him, and he put sorry if I'm going to gross anybody out here, but he put his arms all the way around me, and he was just like, oh my God, it's like, I can get all the way around you now. And I was just like, I could tell I could feel behind me that it wasn't just that he was doing this, it was like that. Like his arm.
Okay. I thought you were about to say that he was behind you, and I felt like a little.
Oh, no.
I was like,
thanks for thinking that, though. No, we were face to face and whatever, and his arms were around my back, but it's like, I'm used to him just being able to do this.
Yeah.
But instead it was like that. So it was a lot more that he could get around it, and he made the point of saying that. And so, I was like, well, if you're noticing this, it's like, am I more attractive or less? I don't know. So we need to have a discussion about this at some point to figure that out. But I know he loves me, but I don't think he knows who he's married to anymore.
Yeah.
And because I found this new thing, meaning this and TikTok and other, platforms that I'm doing and, whatever, and really being out there for other people, that, I wonder sometimes if there's a jealousy with the iPad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the people because I have more friends now than I've ever had. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like I have thousands of friends now that I've never had, in the close bonding of friends that I have. Never had that. I never had time for that. Now I do.
I echo you with that, because I feel the same exact way. Like, I've never had as many people who are going through the same thing I'm going through, and so many people that we just like instantly click my entire life. Yeah,
it's kind of amazing and a gift. But like, another thing for them to navigate is, it'll come around 7 or 8 o'clock and I might go live, and he has to go to the other room. Yeah. And he's used to me not having like anything but time for him. Mm-hmm. So
how do you think, how are you going to navigate that whole aspect? Like, are you going to set certain times to help balance, to make sure that one is not outweighing the other? Do you think maybe going on maybe just some more dates one-on-one to get to know each other, again, in a sense? Like, what do you think you're going to do?
I think those are brilliant ideas. I mean, what has worked for you? I'll throw it back to you.
I'm just trying to think through. So for sure, when it comes to like, being more social or more present on social media, like, I tend to try to have like set days of when I go live or do other extracurricular things. And I'll ask him like, hey, are you okay with this? Like, not that I need like his permission, but I'm just doing it out of courtesy of like, hey, do you mind if I go live tonight? Or do you mind if, on Friday or in a few days, like, kind of plan ahead a little bit so that way I can kind of prepare of, hey, for every single week, do you think I could spend 2-3 hours on my tablet on Tuesday nights and Friday nights, let's say? But I think the ultimate goal, and I think me thinking the ultimate thing here to do is to communicate. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's just communicate and asking those questions. What do you feel comfortable with? What do you feel comfortable with me posting or talking or, whatever it is? Or are you comfortable with me going walking during the nighttime? Would you rather me go walk during the daytime? Like, what works best for you? So again, you're kind of including him in what you're doing and not keeping him in the dark. Yeah. But that way he feels kind of a part of the journey as well.
Yeah, I think that, maybe now that you say it like that, there is a possibility when I say, okay, I think I'm going to go live tonight at 7, that he just takes that as don't be in this room.
Right.
Instead of me just being a little bit more clear. And I mean, I always go to it's me about stuff like this. Mm-hmm. And I've been trying to not do that so much. But, John's also got an awful lot going on in his life, also with his mother. And, there's a lot of, issues with his mother who's in the nursing home and things like that. So it's like I try to be as lenient as possible, that kind of stuff, and not put pressure on him.
Yeah.
But I think it may turn into, turning this into such a therapy session for me. But possible that, like, I'm not communicating because I don't want to put any more pressure on him. So, John and I are very solid about everything. I mean, we've been through a lot, and we've always had communication first. I honestly feel like we have the least communication now than we've ever had because of the bulk of things that are going on.
Yeah.
So it's not just my journey. It's also like his mother's going through stuff, and he's like, he works nonstop, and he's trying to be Superman with, and I don't think he wants to put pressure on me because, I think he wants me to survive this.
Yeah.
and I am. So it might just be a case of waiting for a shoe to drop that's never going to drop, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, for
Not
sure.
too vague. But yeah.
So like, so if someone came to you and was like, Chris, like, my partner, they're just terrible. Like, they're not supportive at all. Like, what pieces of advice would you give them?
Such a good question, Samantha, because I think that I probably would say everything we just talked about. I mean, communication would be the number one thing, right? It's like, what is going on would be my first question,
Mm-hmm.
To your spouse. Got to figure that part of it out. The hardest part is articulating what you want, I think.
Yeah.
Especially when you've been on our side of things.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And maybe it's asking them, like, what do you need from me while I'm on this journey? Like,
that's a really good question.
Maybe like asking like your partner of, hey, what is it that you need from me while I'm on this? Do you need me to do my workouts during a certain amount of the day so that way I can be here with you and the kids or whatever it is? And again, just trying to figure out and balance home life and work life and weight loss life and everything. Sorry, I thought one of my cats were snoring. I mean, one of them was for sure. Do you hear that? Yeah, okay, good. As long as you don't hear it, that's fine. I also think when it comes to how to kind of overcome like an unsupportive partner is, I mean, put up boundaries too, I would say. And so if they're not going to be supportive, I mean, that's fine. But again, like, this is my expectation of what I need out of this. So if you want to be a part of that, I want you to be a part of it. But if you're going to be negative or make comments, I need you to not do that or keep them to yourselves rather than share them with me.
I'm fortunate I haven't had any negativity yet, but I mean, he's had some frustrations because of other stuff that's going on in his life where I just have to give him his space. But I mean, that's pretty much every relationship. So that's not unique to us, but communication is definitely the key to everything. And and we've always had great, amazing communication. We've been together this long. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't know. I think also that, like, I get a little dismissive because, like, and please don't take this wrong, is that, like, in your case, you've got your kids that kind of bond you together, and ours are gone. So it's just the two of us in a house, and it can get a little quiet. You know what I mean? So it's like, because our house is all one level and it's a nice sized house. So his office is on one side of the house, like on the back side of the house. Mine's on the front side of the house, and our bedroom is on the back corner of the house. And it's almost like it's real easy to get the furthest away from each other as possible. Yeah. And without kids kind of like going in between, the disconnect can happen really fast. So beware of that down the road.
No, for sure. And it's interesting because as you're saying that, I'm like, well, wait a minute, like, even having kids, like, it could be all four of us in the same room, but like, he could be on his phone, I could be on my phone, the kids could be on their tablets, whatever. And you still have that disconnect, because I think we're so focused on the kids that we don't really kind of focus on each other, or we're so upset because things are happening with the kids that either they're crying or yelling or whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, I definitely get overstimulated still. And then I kind of turn myself off to where I don't I don't communicate like my frustrations. Yeah. And so, and that turn kind of affects the relationship between John and I. But that's so interesting.
Yeah. So going back into the weight loss part of it, I mean, how that just kind of adds to the pot. Mm-hmm. Communication just becomes that much more important, because I didn't realize. I thought our communication was really good. And I still think it's pretty good. But if we add the whole weight loss thing into it, we've just added another dynamic, and also there's another opportunity for a disconnect. So it's just one more thing we've got to do.
Right. I agree. And maybe it's like, like I don't know if I mentioned it or you mentioned it, like date nights.
Yeah,
let's just go do like a date night, like once a week. Like, let's make that commitment to ourselves. And even as like a partner, if you have kids or don't have kids, like it's just nice to kind of go and connect and just check in on one another, especially if you guys are, both working and there's a lot of things going on. It's just it's just nice to kind of break away from being in the four walls that you're so used to. I think a lot of people now work from home. So it's like, hey, let's get out of our environment, do something fun and exciting. For those parents, do something without the kids and just kind of connect and get back to how we used to be.
Yeah, we need to do that too, because it's the pandemic kind of gave me a really good excuse for like just being a shut-in, and I don't need another excuse for that. I love being at home, always have, and it's just a little too easy, just especially when I was heavier, to just not go anywhere.
Right.
Being heavier made it much more difficult to travel, to do anything. And it was just like, even at a restaurant, like I had to be like certain restaurants, I had to be a little more cautious about what table we sat at. Yeah. Because like sometimes the booths were a little tight. And I just had to think a little more about it. So, but we still went out. But now the pandemic's, not as bad as it was, and we can go to restaurants, things like that. I still don't want to. I still don't want to go to a restaurant. I'd rather, eat at home. But here's another thing. I don't cook anymore. And I used to love to cook. I used to cook like crazy. I have no interest in it at all. I haven't cooked a thing, I don't think, since I've been, I've cooked a few things since I've been on Mounjaro, but when I was on the lower doses. As I've gone up to the doses and my appetite suppressant has increased, I'm not interested in cooking at all, because I like to eat as I cook. And that's like, the joy of that is gone. That's the one thing that, I can say about Mounjaro is that a lot of the joy of eating is gone too. So, which is all part of it, and that's understandable. But I used to cook, and that was another thing that was a connector with us. It's that I would cook every night, just about 5, probably out of 7 nights I would cook something. And then like, when it was ready, we both came to the table and we ate, and we don't do that anymore. I wound up sitting in the living room eating, which I hate.
Yeah.
But we do that a lot. And, just cause it's easier, and it's just something, if he doesn't make it, it's just something quick. Yeah. And then I don't eat much of that because I can't eat processed foods anymore. So everything just kind of like, spiraled a little bit. So anyway, that's probably way too much information, but
no, you're all good.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Waiting For It with Samantha and Chris. Please comment below, like, and subscribe. Let us know what you like about the show and what you'd like to see. And we'll see you next week.